Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, capsuleers, and everyone else, welcome to Thursday. The week's almost over. We're here streaming about the video game EVE Online. My name is Redline. I'll be your host for the evening. I'm joined by the ever illustrious Villy. Hello, Villy. How are you?
Doing delightful, as ever.
Perfect. And we're also joined by Astoria General. Hello there, sir. How's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty good. My Friday is over like what, an hour ago? Feels great.
Nice, nice, awesome. Always good to get a great start to the weekend. Anyways,
For sure, for sure.
there's been a lot of stuff happening in EVE Online lately the last couple weeks. It's a shame that there hasn't been any good talk shows to talk about it. Sorry about that. I will not be taking questions as to my absence, but I'll explain it to you very simply. It's like 60 degrees outside right now. I have nothing else to do, and this seemed like fun. So yeah, that's why we're here. So anyways,
60 degrees is in like Celsius or Fahrenheit or
Fahrenheit. I'm sorry, freedom units. I am, as it turns out, an American.
what does
That is
60
a
degrees Fahrenheit mean for the
Um,
rest of the world?
60 degrees Fahrenheit means that it's not quite warm enough to head out to the lake and go kayaking. It is crisp air coming on your face. Phrasing.
it
But
is about
it's
perfect weather.
but not for being on a lake. It's not perfect
True.
weather for being on a lake. It's perfect
But
weather
in
for
general.
being next to a campfire in a hoodie. But nah, it's not good for kayaking. Anyways, there's been, like I said before, a lot of stuff in EVE Online. A lot of it has happened in the last like 24 hours. Literally the craziest day in EVE has to be all year. Has to be. And
Certainly possible
thankfully,
for this year.
right. And of course, we're talking about none other than the Tranquility Trade Consortium. And, well, I guess it's departure from the video game. Um,
Let's go. Love it.
all the structures are unanchoring, including the keep star and perimeter. Now I hear there is a Sotillo that is not unanchoring and doesn't plan on being unanchored, a little closer to a Mar, but hey, it is what it is. So of course, there's a whole story behind this, right? And I'm happy to have Villy here because Villy is one of the founding fathers of the TTC, right, Villy? You
What were
dropped
you
the
gonna
thing.
do if I didn't show up? Like you just like
I was
talk
gonna
about it?
I was gonna just talk about you until you came. Like
Okay.
I figure it's maybe like Beetlejuice, right? Where if I say your name enough times, you'll show up, or someone will DM you and be like, "Yo, Redline won't stop talking about you," because
Yeah. Okay.
it's fine. But no, I am glad that you're here because I was gonna talk about it, but so you're here, you can give the inside scoop. But it all basically stemmed from the other day. Asher posted to the Reddit verse, I guess you'll call it, that the Imperium would be withdrawing from the TTC, and that was gonna happen today. That did happen today, where the Imperium took their toys and they decided they're not going to be defending, they're not going to do anything. And I believe later on in this thread, I couldn't find the comment, but I believe later on Asher talked about actually attacking the Keepstar.
I
And
hope he does.
I'm curious what led to this. Like, is there anything more than what I see on Reddit with just him wanting B2 to get a spot and he couldn't?
Well, B2 absolutely could have had a spot. We would have had that conversation. We were ready to have the conversation, but he didn't want to have a chat. He, much like Initiative, didn't particularly like the agreement. If you read through the logs, he was definitely pretty like bitter for whatever reason at me, and he wanted to piece out of the agreement. And if they wanted to leave, they were entitled to leave. Like we're not. When you make an agreement, it's always got an expiration date, right? So um, the changes that pretty evidently they seem to have known about came through, and all of a sudden, they made the changes or they made the announcement, and 2 days later, we're unanchoring the TTD. Yeah.
So are you saying that they had like advanced knowledge of the
Well,
changes to the
Ka-
structures, or
Casimir, who was on the CSM, the goons rep in TTT, is on the CSM. So I am expecting the CSM knew of this. Yes.
okay, but he couldn't take action on it, right? I mean, I guess he could if he didn't tell anybody. Does him taking action on it violate the NDA?
I'm not gonna say if he took action or not, but he definitely took inaction, because the thing is, when they had announced the initial patch notes earlier, and we have kind of a in the TTT had kind of an investment fund to look at potential expansions, and because they had changed the way industry tax was going to work, it's like, all right, we're going to put down some new structures, some TOs here, and so on. And we got a couple of those ready to go, uh, and was trying to get a vote, see what everybody's thoughts were, and they didn't. They were dead silent, strangely enough. So that definitely came off as a bit suspicious, as it kind of shows in the logs, but all in all, not super stressed about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's more space work for you. So I keep seeing stuff about the logs. I do see some of the logs on Reddit, but it's basically just talking about like you guys trying to reach out to Asher, and he just literally ghosted you completely.
Yeah, he was apparently unwilling to talk to us, um, for whatever reason.
Well, he says that you guys vetoed his proposals in January, and then they checked the agreement to make sure that there was no requirement for them to respond to you, and then they just stopped responding.
Yeah, so I mean, you can read the logs if you think that's a veto of his proposal, then I mean, as far as I can tell, that's something like only a retard would think. Like, we're like, hey, this doesn't really make sense. Why don't we talk about it? And then he just never says anything. So it's like that's nobody vetoing it. It's just like him saying something, us questioning it, and then him just like shutting down like a child or something and not talking.
Right.
Like
And so
very very odd, to say
and
the
that's what
least.
that's what these logs are showing, basically. They're talking about like dealing with Black Flag or something like that, but that wouldn't be the same thing as
That wouldn't be
the
the same
the
thing as what,
spot
sorry?
for the spot for B3, right? I didn't
No,
see
no.
anything
Black
about
Flag was always
B3.
kind of paid like protection money instead, rather than like a investment proposal.
Right.
Or
S-
what did I say? Investment proposal? I mean like a partnered kind of cut.
Yeah, so they protected the structures, right?
Black Flag, or
Yeah.
yes, Black Flag does the vast majority of the like default work in high sec for the TCC. They clear out all the like annoying little competitors that crop up. Uh, they just do a lot of like the day-to-day maintenance of the structure, and they're paid well to do so. Um,
Yeah, of
because their
course.
services were like super valuable, right? It's,
Yeah, of course, because anything to keep you guys from having to go to high sec and duke it out in propless Phyrexes, right?
well, I mean, it's more so like what they'll do with like 30 guys with like Lichax and some like alt logi will take us like 150 guys to do, right? Because we have to like form a real fleet, and it's usually like average comp at best, and like you got to come all the way from MJ or 1DQ or wherever. Like it's just a lot of extra work for us to do it versus them, where it's just like they live next door, so they show up, they go shoot the thing, and they call it a day.
Right, yeah, so just easy. Dan wants to know how much they got paid.
Black Flag, I'm not going to reveal what they got paid publicly. That's for them. Pretty much,
Okay,
like I'm sure it's circling, but
if
like
if I say a number, will you just say higher or lower, and we will only do it one time?
no,
Fuck. All right. Well, the number I
like
saw was like 75 bill a month. But I mean that's chump change considering that TTT regularly brought in what, a trillion a month easy?
the TTT in the last year or so averaged somewhere between 600 to a trill.
God damn.
Yes, I mean So that's a shit ton of money. That's a metric fuck ton of cash just coming from a structure existing. And of course, Black Flag got, they got a cut from it, and that's fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, just remember that amount is then split like at minimum 4 ways, if not other payments to deal with, right? So
Right, of course. And there's another comment in chat talking about your comments about annoying competitors, aka players just trying to play the game outside the big block. I think that is funny, because if you're having trouble playing the game outside the big block, you should just join the big block, right? That's the idea.
That
What's
is
And
your
a serenity.
now I'm talking to the chatter. Sorry. But essentially, all of this came out like yesterday, and then this morning, some interesting things started happening. There was, well, no, I guess this was yesterday as well. So Gobbins came out with a ping after Asher made his post, because Asher's post essentially was saying that he didn't think that Test should still get as big of a cut as everybody else because they have 20 people, 20 active members or something like that is what he said. Um, and they were talking about how he didn't feel that the cuts were fair. But then Gobbins brings out this post, which is amazing. And I have to get confirmation. Were Goons, Imperium, the people who got the most out of that Keepstar, would you say?
they were tied for the highest, yes.
And I'm guessing the
Actually,
other
no, they did
highest
get
is
the
like,
most because the Horde share is actually split with other people. So yes, actually, technically, Goons got the most. They were the highest single percentage.
so
Who
Goons
did
are the,
Horde share with?
Say again,
well,
sorry?
I'm just curious. Who did Horde share with?
probably other PanFam members, I would assume. Which
I'm
is,
not gonna. That's Horde's business to discuss.
yeah, no, we don't need to know the specifics. It's probably just PanFam people. But yeah, so the Goon share would have been split too, but who was it? I mean, same kind of question. Who was it split with? And that's how you can kind of see.
My understand. Well, it's important to understand when I say split with the Horde share, it's not split between like. It's a different kind of arrangement. Whereas the Imperium shares, to my understanding, were split between the Imperium members based on alliance size and member count. So you had
So
situations
like
where
in a,
Drakari's, I think, received more from the TTT than Initiative did.
oh, that's interesting.
I
And
could be wrong, but that was my understanding a while back.
I
So,
mean,
like, if there's an Imperium person that wants to correct me, like, absolutely, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
well, that's kind of crazy, especially considering that Init has, just recently left the Imperium. Maybe that was why. Maybe that was why.
No, no. They also left. Like they forsake the TTT money a while ago. Like if what a few months ago,
Last
maybe
month,
3.
or the month before last, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, at some point they said, but I know that they did recently leave, and someone commented on not doing a show about it. Whatever, eat it. But anyway, so Goons being the number one recipient of funds from that Keepstar, I don't understand why they would want to leave the agreement. I mean, citing some of the changes that are coming to the essence where you can no longer anchor XL structures in HiSec, that seems like it would make that Keepstar infinitely more valuable. Would it not?
It would, I think, but I think they viewed it as a combination of things. I think Asher's still kind of working on some kind of like blind bitterness, and on the same token, I think they didn't necessarily control it, so they weren't necessarily as comfortable with it. I can't truly say like what the full exact reason is. Obviously, they felt it would be a popular move. The TTD has never been particularly well liked, so it's like a little bit of free press, but I truly can't guess the complete reasoning.
Yeah.
Well, I should say I can guess a complete reasoning, but I'm just as likely to be partially off as I am partly right.
Right. Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, the reasons for doing it, they could be anything. But I mean, realistically, looking at the fact that you can no longer anchor them and like how much money actually comes in from it, you would think that they would want to continue to have that stream of income coming in to pay off the war bonds stuff, SRP costs, everything like that. Um, but of course, the comments about it being bad for the game and everything. I don't know if it's bad for the game though. I think
TTT
having,
was never particularly bad for the game, despite many people's thoughts that it was.
but I also don't think it
The
was
reality is,
like
all
good
it
for the
did is
game
take
either.
tax. Well, all it did was take taxes that otherwise would go to CCP and JITA and push them into blocks that they would then use to PvP with. Like, I know it sounds like crazy to say it like that, but literally that's pretty much almost exactly what happened, right? Because all of the money went to blocks, and those blocks then used that money to pay bills. Like World War B2, which was viewed as the content gluttony of the century, would never have happened without the money from the TTT, or would never even came close to happening. And much the same, many of the alliances that we currently see that offer things like SRP and are super adamant about doing PvP things, they might not necessarily have been able to afford them in the way that they have traditionally done them if they didn't have that money.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, and I get that. But
And on the same token, it's important to understand that by having that money be absorbed by the blocks and put to good use, it goes somewhere else instead of places like it was before, where it was just going into like literally RMT and some other spots.
I mean,
Because
I
there will
don't
always be a market
think I
trade in
don't
perimeter.
I don't think that we can say for sure that the money from the TTT now isn't going towards RMT in some form.
100% we can.
Okay.
Which
But
alliance do you think is RMTing?
you know the ones.
If you think Frat's RMTing it, I can assure you they're not.
I would never say that about Frat.
Well, that's the only alliance, like Goon, Horde, Test, Frat. Like, so even if you were thinking about it in the most unforgiving way, think about it like this. This is Frat's number one supply of money that is clean. Why would they ever RMT that money? Right?
I don't think they would. That's
Okay.
I wasn't talking about them.
Well,
It's
then who are
fine.
you talking about?
I'm not gonna say names. Because you didn't say their name, and if you didn't say their name, then that's fine. If they don't get the cut, then they can't RMT it. Simple as. However, moving right along, the reason that I don't think that the TTT was necessarily good for the game or bad for the game, but I do think that if that Keepstar didn't exist, that those annoying competitors would have filled that gap, right? And would they be high seckers? Yeah, sure. But could they eventually be high seckers that earn their way into getting into other parts of space like low sec or null sec, and then they have all this money to do what they need to do with? Or do you think it would just be like another kind of cartel, but just high seckers instead of blocks?
Well, I mean, right now the situation is set where Black Flag, their high sec allies, and there's going to be a kind of a, if I had to take a wild guess, there's going to be a variety of people stepping up to put their hand in the cookie jar, let's say. And there's going to be some actually semi-interesting content for the high sec war deckers and all the people that play in high sec for probably a month or two, if I had to guess, before we kind of reach a new, what would you call it? New equilibrium.
Yeah.
And once that equilibrium is hit, I would assume that you will probably have very little disruption, much like when things were run by the TTT. It'll be exactly the same, it's just a little different.
But without the Keepstar. And
With a Portazar. Yeah.
And that is an important distinction, right? Is that oh, hold up, wait a second. We got a raid from Mr. Unlucky. Hello, friend. Welcome everyone to the stream. We're talking about the Tranquility Trade Tower and the Tranquility Trade Consortium's I guess a downfall, you'll call it if you want to.
Abrupt end? I don't know.
Abrupt end. Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing, right? Is that this is the reason why I don't think it was necessarily good for the game, is because you got all that money coming in, right? And you're correct. It's being funneled to the blocks, which historically have the best, maybe second best methods of making money. They have the best organizational skills. They have the most access to like outside of game tools to use to track and organize everything. And they have a lot of people. So realistically, there was never ever going to be a threat to that Keepstar. It would stand there forever. Whereas a smaller group or a collection of smaller groups would maybe have some contests in the area. Wouldn't you agree?
Whereas, so you think there's going to be a contest in the area because there's smaller groups?
I would hope so. I would hope that through clever usage of the war deck mechanics in HiSec that it wouldn't just go to the next person on the totem pole, but that someone would actually,
The
kick
people
in
who know
and,
the high sec mechanics best are going to be the high sec people that I just described, right?
well, of course, but there's a lot more than just Black Flag and Pirate and those guys. There's
Really?
a
Who?
I mean, I don't know them personally because I don't typically associate with HiSecers, but I mean,
So
I know
I
they
kind of do,
exist.
and I don't.
Really?
Like, there is not a ton of like large, medium-sized, competent groups in high sec. It just, if you're of a certain size, you just leave. Like, you go to low sec or you go to high sec, or
So,
nobody is like, yeah, I want to stay in high sec. That's the best place to make money ever, right? Like, give me access to all those level 1 missions. Like, people, if you're of the capability to do something else, generally do something else.
yeah, but I mean, not if you can just access infinite money, right? And I mean, there's plenty of ways to get around space without living in nullsec or living in lowsec. You can live in highsec and still do everything that lowsecers and highsecers enjoy, or lowsecers and nullsecers enjoy. It's not like you're barred from doing those things because you live in highsec. So like,
Well, you are, because you only get to do those things in nullsec and lowsec because you live in them. That's why the highsec people are so powerful, is because they live in nullsec, or highsec, I should say, so that they have access, direct access, day-to-day access to those structures, to those mechanics, to those all that stuff, right? That's the advantage of localcy.
I mean, I guess, but I honestly can't think of many things, if anything, that you couldn't do in nullsec or lowsec living in highsec, because that's what I will do, and
You
that's what
couldn't
I
do
have
anything in
done.
nullsec if you live in highsec. You can't respond to Jimmy's tackled if you live in highsec. You can't properly utilize your market. You have to pick where you live. You don't get to choose both, right?
I mean, I think you could. You could live in a market and then PvP
Could you
in
describe me a
lowsec or
single
nullsec.
alliance in history that has actually done this?
Well, no, I cannot. But
Right.
it could be done, right? I
No,
just
it can't.
the
Like,
the
once again,
thing
the power of localcy is the power, right?
Yeah, I guess it's just disappointing to me that the next people in line are gonna be the people that get access to all this money now, and it's
Well, somebody's going to have to get access. Well, and first, I want to be clear about something. I would estimate half of the TTT trade will never come back. Um, reason people used TTT before
uh-huh.
was because the TTT was infinitely reliable, safe, um, and certainly, what would I call it? Stable, right? Like, it was always the same. It never changed. You always knew your clones were good. You always knew your like it was never gonna die. Like, all those things played into the strength of the TTT. The
Hmm.
fact now that it's been killed once and it's going to be a Fortizar, it's never going to be the same as it was before.
Okay, so instead of it being a trillion split
You
between 150,000 people, it's 500 billion split
The value of
between
the Plex
2
market
dozen.
the value of the Plex market that will be the Plex and injector and extractor market that will be seeking a new home will be in the range of 300 to 400 bill is my guess.
Okay, so it's instead of a trillion split between 150,000 people, it's 400 billion split between like 2 dozen or something like that, right? Like how many
Why?
active people are in those groups, Black Flag and Pirate?
Well, it's not going to be just Black Flag and Pirate. They'll have to bring in other high sec allies and a bunch of other people, I'm sure. And isn't that what you wanted though? You just said you want the small groups to make all the money, so they can go do other things.
Yeah, but I don't want those groups to be like Black Flag and Pirate.
Why not?
Because they're
They're the
terrible
ones that
groups. They're the worst.
have the control, the strength, etc.
Okay. Well, I have to
I mean,
address what.
Eve is infinitely a group where the strong make the money, right?
I mean, I guess if you want to call 10 losers in Leshak's killing a badger on the Undock strong, but I mean, that's just me. I do want to address though, because Kia Ryan is saying that you do not have 150,000 players across all your blocks, and where I got that number from. So where I'm getting that number from, I pulled it out of my ass for one. But the reason it's so high is because where this money goes, this money doesn't just go into somebody's pocket, right? It doesn't just go in there for safekeeping. This money goes to these alliances to pay for things like SRP, newbie programs, all that kind of shit, which includes everyone that's a member of those groups. So that's is where I'm getting that number from. So that's it. And the reason I think Black Flag is the worst is because they're high set gankers. High set gankers are goofy. I really do not enjoy. I don't enjoy them. But that's just a personal feeling. I guess if they defend what they need to do and they're strong, then sure they can have the money, I suppose. But I am curious though, what what was the decision to like where did the decision to unanchor everything come from? Like I saw some pings from like I saw Rat's ping and I saw Gobbin's second ping. But like from a perspective of like being in the conversation, where'd that decision come from?
Where did that decision come from?
Yeah.
I mean, we chatted about, should we defend this? Or are we going to end up defending this? How is the agreement going to work? And, the decision was that, it's going to, Frat and Horde are not interested in doing this in a different way necessarily. And maybe it would be good if the TTT died and we could restart in a different way, I guess, or try something different. So they were like, we're not going to defend. I'm like, all right, well, if we're not going to defend, I figure I'll just go unanchor them all because that gives people an opportunity to have a clear message that these things are going to die. So get your shit out of them, right? Because otherwise, people are going to be like, oh, they're just going to defend it like they always do, right? And it sends a very clear message that these things aren't coming back. It gives everybody an opportunity, right? Like obviously they're going to die. They're not going to be unanchored. Anybody who thinks that is going to be in for a rude surprise, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, I mean I figure they'll probably die within a week, probably, at least the Keepstar.
Yeah, I don't think any of them will get to their unanchors.
And I mean, and you guys aren't going to go and defend them, right?
Well, I'm not one of the guys. I'm just like,
Of course.
a dude. But my understanding is that Frat and Horde don't have any intention to come defend them. Maybe some people will come snipe some kills, but like a formal heavy defense, I'm not tracking that as planned.
Well, in order for there to be a defense, right, with the mechanics, they all have to be war decked against each other. As
Right. So
far as
everybody's
like
going to see it coming, 1,000 miles away.
right, yeah. So it won't be a surprise if there is kind of a defense, but I really don't see a reason to defend it, but I also didn't really see a reason to unanchor it. Because like if they said, "Hey, we're going to come kill this," why not just let them come kill it and slog through hours of silly tie-dye and silly ships for nothing but a kill
Oh,
mail?
why unanchor it instead?
Yeah.
Because they are going to do that. They're doing. They're going to come do those things regardless. By pressing the anchor button, it signals to all the people that aren't hooked into Eve Media, anybody that uses these stations that isn't on Reddit, isn't on Discord, isn't on fucking Twitch. These things are coming down. Like, because those people, there's a lot of them. They like the people in the Eve like Reddit sphere and all these other groups, they don't have like a common understanding of how many people just play the game and aren't hooked into every fucking thing that's happening on Reddit or Twitch or YouTube or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I press that on anchor button. It sends a very clear message to them: something's wrong here. Wake up, you know. Because otherwise, the only indication a lot of them would have is when the structures start getting reinforced for the first time.
And then that's
And
what,
at that point, they only get like a day and like 8 hours or whatever to get their shit out.
yeah, and that
This
goes
this
back to
hopefully
what you were
buys them like
saying.
Well,
3 days, 4
That
days
goes
maybe.
that goes back to what you were saying about like then they think that you're just going to defend it, and the unanchoring sends the clear message that you're not.
Correct.
So I mean, those are a couple great clippable sound bites. If anybody wants to post those on the Eve Online forum, shout them out in local. Make sure the message comes through loud and clear. Mr. General, you had something you wanted to say, and I heard you chime in.
no, what I was gonna say was previously said
Well,
already,
oh, well, you can still say it. It's okay.
and because it was said, I also forgot what I was gonna say.
God damn it. God damn it. Well, I'll tell you one thing. So one of the things that I thought was interesting with at least Norris's ping is that he mentioned that the public has spoken about their resentment towards the TTC market. Um, and I think that may be blown out of proportion. Were people really that up in arms about that Keepstar existing and the TTC as a whole?
Oh yeah, man, it's crazy how fucking sour many of these people are.
Like, yeah, I saw some very sour people, but it didn't feel like it was that much. Like there was a big post that someone made, a wonderful like copy pasta esque story about how the Tranquility Trade Tower needs to die, and it got 0 upvotes and like 3 comments on Reddit. And of course, I mean that's not really a great indicator of where people's
If
hearts
we
are,
judge
but
things by the number of upvotes they get, then we don't necessarily always have a good judge of what's going on. To be fair.
yeah, but we get that picture, right? We get that side of the story, and honestly, that's where people are the loudest. So I would think that if that's where the information is coming from, that's where the loudest people are. That's where they would put the comments. But I mean, like I said before, not everybody's hooked into everything, and the high seckers could hate it completely.
I mean, I can tell you right now, there's, I've received a lot of mails and like a lot of like, I'm, sorry to, see things go. Only structure we could trust in ISEC. There's a ton of like things that I've received that remind me that we did some good over the years, and unfortunately, there was a lot of work put in to kind of as much as we could, making sure that the little guy was taken care of. Basically, all of the services that the TB provided for the last 5 years, when it came to industry, aside from the refinery, were like we were actually done at a loss. I didn't generally like publicly admit that to the leaders, but like all those SOTOs, all those like research facilities, they made no money. They lost money, which sounds crazy when you think about it. But like the way tax used to work in HiSec was changed this week, just to ensure that like none of these things ever made money. Um,
Hmm.
did you want to say
What
something there, sir?
what was the change?
They changed the way that industry jobs are taxed this week.
Yeah, but like, how did they change it? Sorry, I haven't gotten to the
So the
patch notes yet.
tax is applied based on the job cost, not on like a base industry value, if that makes
Uh,
sense.
I see.
that
So
actually, yeah, yeah. So the average what Tristan's gonna cost like 5,000 is to produce. That's taxed.
Like I don't know, like for example, like somebody puts in like I don't know, like hundreds of millions of ISK in jobs, we might get like 1 million ISK in the old system. Like that's how low it was. Like we wouldn't even get 1 million. Like it was insanely low how the tax worked before. So they changed it now, so it's a little more like based on the total job value, I think, or total job number. It's definitely different.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
but
for sure.
wouldn't that scale up a lot though?
Yes, it does scale now.
Yeah, so it scales up a lot.
So
Yeah, so there's definitely that's why like when I said earlier we were talking about dropping new Sotios because all of a sudden it might be profitable to actually run those Sotios in HiSec for a change.
I gotcha. And it might still be worth it.
To
Well,
run
not
Sotios in
if
HiSec, you can't because there's no more Sotios droppable in HiSec.
yeah,
Oh, true.
the only ones that are in high sec are on anchoring right now. So good luck with that.
I did not know those were Excel structures.
You did not know those were Excel structures.
No, I did
Sotios?
not.
Oh well.
Oh well, Hycorian does bring
Today
up
you
a good
learned.
point. Except for the goon ones, the goon Sotios will still be alive, right? Have they said anything about getting rid of those yet, or
So they
keeping
basically
loosely
said they're
tight-lipped?
not going to get rid of their Sotio and domain. How long it'll survive, I don't know, but I wish them all the
Amazing.
best.
So in normal goon fashion, what's good for thee is not good for me, and that's incredible. And I mean,
Awesome.
honestly, this is
We'll see if all of Gundor is, as upset about that in the future as they were about the TTT. If Sotios and HiSec were a mistake, something tells me not, but we'll see.
So you should
so
still be able to run Dotaros, right?
You can run
so
everything except for Sotios and Keepstars.
so
Yeah.
Carlisle Gaming says that's a lie, and Casimir said, so the Sotio taxes, everything's been lowered. What is the tax at 0 now, or the same as
Yes,
an
they have their
NPC
tax.
station?
They have their production tax at 0. They do not have their market tax at 0 because their minimum market tax is what it's always been at. And the market tax is where it makes you the money because that's what the Plex rate is.
Gotcha.
So they did set the production tax to 0.00 or 0.01 or something like the minimum.
Sure,
But
as I was looking, but the market tax is still there, so they're still going to be pulling in money from the Sotio if
yeah,
people are
like
using it.
the Sotio and domain makes like 60 to 100, I think, a month, or maybe a little less. I'm not sure. I can't remember off the top of my head.
And so that is really chump change. I
It's
mean,
not
when
chump
we're
change. 60 to 100 bill is a nice pile of money a month.
when we're talking about a group that is in as much debt as goons are, it's chump change, right? Like with
Since
their
when are
S
goods in debt?
since they did war bonds twice and still haven't paid back the first round? Unless I missed something. Because as far as I knew, goons were still pretty in debt to their line members, to the tune of a lot. But that's not you, right? Because you're in it. Yeah?
No, no, no. I got blacklisted for a minute.
Oh, nice. Welcome to the club. It's an exclusive club of.
Yeah, I tried to join Horde, and then I think I got blacklisted from Horde as well,
Amazing. Good times.
or
Um,
maybe from PanFam. So
well, and I will say I'm not trying to talk out of my ass here. I'm mostly just asking questions. If there's something that I'm saying that's wrong, you're more than welcome to say, hey, what you said is wrong, and this is the correct thing.
I mean, it's like an open Discord, right? Like if people want to come in and ask questions,
yeah,
it is true, and you're already typing in the chat, so I mean, you might as well just type
yeah.
more.
I will say I know Init has paid off their war bonds.
well,
I never.
Initiative never. Well, yeah, actually, Initiative did have a small amount of war bonds, but Goons paid for their Titan SRP and stuff, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the ping from Gobbins. Someone commented that they wanted a different background. I hope this is what you meant, because this is all I got for you. I don't have any other videos to do the background here. But I mean, this is kind of the same thing that Norris was saying, except he's saying here that nobody vetoed Asher's proposals. He just barged in, started talking shit, and then ghosted everybody afterwards. And then, of course, he's talking about the Sotillo there as well. But I mean, it's been a crazy day for the TTC. And there is a question that I wanted to ask you specifically, Billy, because I know that you don't like space work. So how did it feel when you pressed the unanchor button on the Keepstar?
I thought it felt pretty good. Glad to be done. Glad to be done with it.
So you're glad to be done with like a trillion-esque that you can split with your friends every month.
Well, to be clear, I made zero money off the TTT for the last ever, really. Even when I, was managing test share to a degree, it was test money, not my money. And obviously, since leaving test, I literally, just did it to support kind of the little guy. I took no money, and I can assure you, if there was a way in which I was trying to skim money, the goons would have been there looking to call me out instantly, right? They would not have been comfortable in any way paying Billy. So, all of the stuff is super transparent because otherwise it wouldn't work. And if there was any money going to me that was not kosher, and there was none aside from like I might have plexed the TTT character like 3 times in the last 2 years so that I could fuel the things for a year or two. And that's really it. So in terms of money, it was just unpaid work for me, and I'm happy to be done with it. A lot of grief for
nothing.
for
Well, for
much
helping
hatred.
the
Being the
little guy.
villain.
What do you
Yeah.
mean by helping the little guy? How does that work?
Well, I talked about it earlier, right? Like providing, industry services in and around Jita for below cost effectively.
So lower than an NPC station would be.
Yeah.
And so you'll have to forgive me for my lack of knowledge about citadels, but you can still do like production and stuff in other non-XL structures, right?
Yeah.
So it is, so like you said before, it is very simple for a new set of
I mean,
groups
you can do
to come
production in
in
Jita
and
if you want. It's
it's
easier to do it
awful.
in a Sotia because everything's in one spot. You don't have to move around with multiple Ritarus or Asbels or whatever, or vice versa. You don't have to pay, the much higher rate of like NPC stations.
Right. Yeah, because like I remember I tried to build a bar guest in Judah one time and it was gonna cost me more than I could make from selling the ship to buy the materials and actually build it and everything like that. So that's
That sounds
the
about right for something like that.
kind of ridiculous. So Dan, that's how the help was for the little guy. Sorry, that was a question from the chat. I just brought it into the stream. We got content and Costa check in the chat too. Wish they were here. Need some goon opinions. I was told there'd be some gloating, but no gloating has occurred yet. And honestly, I think we've pretty much talked this topic out. Unless there's anything else anybody wants to add about it. The way I see it, we got about 17 more minutes to stream and got to talk about the new expansion too.
Yeah, to the TTT.
That's TTT. But not the show, not Trash Talk Tuesday, the Keepstar. I realized
Yeah, that one.
there was
That
a lot of
one.
confusion. Of course, Trash Talk Tuesday is way more popular than the Tranquility Trade Tower, so I can understand
I
the
mean, you say
confusion.
that jokingly, but it sort of was, right?
Oh no, it definitely is. I'm not joking. Trash Talk Tuesday is an extremely popular show. But content, what's the breaking news? Is there something breaking that I haven't heard of? Your based War HQ. I don't know what that means.
Mm,
Content, why don't you just join the Discord and tell me with your mouth?
it might be in Fluffy. Oh, that's on a system. Damn.
All right, I'm looking in cesspool. Okay, goon. Oh, look at that. The Goon Swarm Federation has declared war against the Tranquility Trade Consortium. That happened fairly recently. How about that?
Nice.
And why is this? Why is the war headquarters important?
What about the war headquarters? What is the war headquarters if it's the headquarters for the?
Ashab, Tranquility Trade and Production Center. Oh,
Oh,
is
that's
that
funny.
is
That's
that the
funny.
is that the Sotio and domain? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Probably.
All right, that's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good one, Goons. Got to admit. So basically, everybody that the Goonswarm is declaring war against should go shoot the Sotio, right? Right?
Yeah, and then you guys should kill the structures at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So when goons come to shoot the Keepstar, everybody else goes and shoots the Sotio. We'll get rid of all of the Tranquility Trade Consortium structures all at once. Sound like a plan?
Well, the really funny thing is that when you set a structure as your war HQ, it can be killed much quicker than a structure that is reinforced.
How's that?
War HQs have a different timer set so that they can be killed before a normal structure is killed.
Oh,
They lose a bit of their reinforcement cycle. It goes from like 3 days in the final to like 2 days, I think. I could be wrong. My Isaac mechanic memory is a little off. I don't know what you would call it.
That's okay. That's fine. You're
But I remember you get to kill the war deck HQ before uh, the yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's the breaking news that the war were declared as it is, I suppose. So I guess I can say with full faith that I was wrong, and that the goons do indeed plan to attack and kill these structures. I thought for sure they weren't going to. I thought for sure that the only reason that Asher was doing any of this was so that he wouldn't have to take the goons to high sec anymore, because recently Asher has had a history of doing nothing and maybe wants to continue to do that. I don't know.
honestly, I find the system name very amusing because it's
Ashab?
Ashab. Yeah,
What? How is that amusing? It's just
it ki-
Ashab.
I know, but it kind of
Ashab.
sounds like someone.
Who?
Asher.
Oh
Ah,
Jesus.
I see. I understand.
We're seeing Asher in all things again.
I understand. I understand. No, it's a shab, I guess is what we'll call it. But yeah, that's pretty much all on that topic. And I mean, honestly, we could probably do a whole show on the expansion, right? There's lots of awesome new features that came out with that, with the Viridian expansion that is now live. You
Yeah,
guys
the
been
T2
teacher.
Dreads being the big one, yeah.
I
Yes,
need to look at
T2
these.
Dreads? Well, we can look at them together if you're watching the stream, along with a bunch of your friends, which I greatly appreciate y'all being here this evening. So some big things that came out in the expansion were the corporation identity, so the skins for structures. I believe that there is a group that has already earned their first structure skin. Hold on, I saw it on the EVE Online Twitter account.
Well, it's not so much earned as it is spent the money to buy this skin. And any large corporation at this point has that amount of Eve marks. So it's literally just a thing where people are like, okay, we'll spend the Eve marks we have and put the skin on.
So this is what it looks like. That's what it looks like. That's the skin. And yeah, so you have to
To be
you have to
clear, that is
earn
the
the
skin
money.
color choice they set up, right? You customize your own skin. You don't have a specific one that you are forced to take.
Yeah. So they've done this, and I don't guess any of the other have any other groups. Have you seen anybody with a structure skin like this yet up in your neck of the woods?
I don't think I've seen many yet. I
I
think
need
most people are actually saving their Eve marks, hoping that CCP is gonna change their mind and not make these things insanely frigging expensive.
just gonna undock really quick. See, photos are usually blue.
They're
And I mean, the
very
other thing is
gray.
most of the structures that people use day to day are all held in holding corps, which they haven't found a way to actually push Eve marks from actual player corps to holding corps yet. So
Yeah. So Hybrid says Karma Fleet and Turbo both got a pink fort. All pink or like pink accents like this one? Either way, either way. So that's kind of a big thing that came through there. People have been asking for that forever. Next up on the docket, the Lancer Dreads. Now I know we didn't really get a chance to talk about these because the show was abruptly and stupidly canceled for whatever reason. I don't want to look in cesspool right now at all, but I will. Oh my, whose is that? Get it out of here! Look at this one, Billy. Look at this.
I can look in cesspool. It's pink and green.
Oh my
Not a
god,
very good skull. Not
it
a very good
looks
color profile.
it looks like gum and vomit. Anyways, yeah, no, not a great profile. Whoever has that structure should stop having it like that. So then, but the Dreadnoughts, the Lancer Dreadnoughts. I don't remember if we actually had a chance to talk about the Lancer Dreadnoughts and like their
These
intention and everything
bonuses
like
are
that.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean the bonuses are pretty good. The lances are pretty good too. But also there were some changes made to the Marauders. Those changes are, where are they? They're somewhere. While I'm scrolling, Cliff's notes on the Marauders. There were nerfs, right? All of them got nerfed?
No, not at all.
No? Did they get buffed?
E-war change, what do you
Apocalypse
mean?
took Apocalypse. Paladin
Say
took like
what?
an optimal. Paladin took an optimal range nerf. But otherwise, I don't think was changed. I can't remember.
Uh,
Marauder took a nerf on its shield boost bonus, but lost a high slot for a low slot, which is a buff. So
true.
debatable on if it's a total Vargar nerf or not.
Well,
Chronos
they
lost
all
a high
lost.
slot for. Oh, did they all lose something?
The Bastion lost E-war resistance.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Bastion lost E-War resistance for tracking disruptors and sensor dampeners.
And also the
So
But
Bastion duration
it
is
changed
increased to
from 30
60
to 60
seconds.
seconds. Yeah, so it changes the
That's the
dynamic
big
a little,
one.
but it's yeah. The Chronos lost a high slot for a mid slot, which is a pretty nice buff. And the Golem, did anything change in the Golem? I don't think it
Yeah,
did actually.
so Kronos, let's see. So Kronos got the mid slot minus the high slot, got armor HP increase and got hull HP decrease. So just like 600 one way or the other. The Vargar got a low slot and lost a high slot, but what would that high slot have even had in it? Like a newt or something like that?
Probably a medium
Just
newt or a high newt or a heavy
just
newt,
an
depending on your
accessory,
grid situation. Yeah.
nothing vital. So nothing vital is missing from this.
Well, I mean, a newt can be pretty relevant, but like you gain that low slot, it creates a situation where you're able to use that low slot for a variety of fitting issues, whether it be a coprocessor, a damage control, a power diagnostic, a tracking answer, a gyro. Like it gives the it actually makes the Vargar a better ship, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it does, and they got the same kind of HP increase decrease, except it was shield and armor. So they took more of the shield away, but this one got a a nerf in the shield and armor repair amounts in their boosters from 7.5% to 5%. That's a nerf. We'll call that. And then the Paladin just got an optimal range nerf, which I guess is cool. That doesn't do that much, does it? It's still hella long range, right?
Correct. It does not do much, but
So,
it does make a difference.
I mean, what would it bring it? What would it bring in closer to engage, though?
I don't even know.
Same. I mean, it is what it is, I suppose. All right, and then of course the mass got increased as well on all of these Marauders, so they're massive now. Um, and then so that's
So they're
for
either good at rolling wormholes or
good at fighting in wormholes.
yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, and I saw some people pretty up in arms about the Marauders being changed. I saw them. I saw them as nerfs. This is the first time I'm reading them. It doesn't really seem like they're nerfs. They're more balance changes. Which, honestly, if we're actually looking at balancing the spaceships instead of just flat out hitting them with a hammer, kudos to whoever at CCP is doing that now instead of holding the fucking hammer. You dolt. And then there was the other one, another big thing. So we talked about the Lancer Dreads a little bit. I do find it fitting that the Lancer Dreadnoughts got less talk than the changes to Marauders. We talked about the tax reforms. Already did all this. Sorry for the scrolling. Sorry for the scrolling. I'm trying to get to where I want to be.
Also, I think the T2 Dread changes or additions got a lot of attention to at least the jump freighter pilots because of what Snuffed can do specifically.
Why's it gotta be snuffed? Anybody could do it, not just snuffed out, right?
Because they're one of the bigger like Dread boogeymen of the low sec arena.
Don't call them boogeymen. Every time you do, you validate them. And do you know how hard it is to unvalidate a snuff member? It is so hard, right?
I
Once
mean,
they
when have they not been validated?
right now, all my homies say it's snuffed out. Fuck snuffed out. Just kidding. Love you guys. Anyways, home front operations. This is something new, like very new, in the sense that it brings in pilots that are covering specific roles. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in Eve. Have you? Either of you? Where like
I
someone has to hack and someone has to haul or something like that?
Oh, you're talking about the home fronts or whatever they're called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a
I think they're a nice little addition to the game. I don't think they're super crazy. The rewards seem reasonable, uh, and it gives especially like newer players kind of a way to cooperate and work together for a reasonable little reward. I
yeah.
think it's a. My concern is going to be that somebody's going to do half of it on an alt and the other half on his other alt and so on and so on. But
Oh yeah, no, it'll absolutely be multi-box. I've already seen posts about like how you can just blitz them with alts. And I mean that's in the name of Eve, that is exactly how it works. But anyways, there's a bunch of different
I
types
definitely
of
think it
these.
might have been an interesting thing if they would have made them like alpha only or something. That would have been pretty funny.
Yeah. But then people would have just oh, well, I see it's against terms of service, but more than one alpha at a time. And that
Correct.
means no one ever does it. I understand. But either way, there's a bunch of different ones that you can do, like the artifact recovery, signals, blah blah blah. You can read the patch notes for yourself if you want to. That's not what I'm gonna do. But I mean, really, it's a big expansion, and there's a lot of stuff that came through. We got some graphic updates and everything like that. Um, how's it been? You guys been enjoying it? Seen any Lancer dreads out and about yet?
I
Well, it's
literally
going to
just
be
got one.
almost a month before we can see a Lancer Dread.
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
Takes, I think, what, 7 days? Yes. At minimum, it's taking 8 days to invent a blueprint, assuming you started day one. So we're 2 days in. So that's 6 days of invention plus. I don't know what the build time is in a 0-0 Sotio, but assuming someone has the parts 100% ready, maybe like 3 more weeks.
I will
Actually,
pay
they have a 55-day base build time, don't they? So it's like
Ooh,
25 days. You assume Sotio bonuses or something.
I will pay 25 billion ISK to be able to lose the first Lancer Dread. Just saying. If any of you
I
guys
Well,
wish.
build
realistically, those first Lancer Dreads are going to be like 40. So
Yeah,
because they're like 15 to 20 build cost, so nobody's going to give you the first one for an extra 5.
what do you
They're
think
gonna
they'll
they're gonna want
settle
way more.
down to?
They'll settle down to like 15 to 20.
That
Like
seems
it's like
high.
it's like 8 bill for the T2 mats if you assume like normal prices, I think, and plus the T2 Dread hull, or the T1 Dread hull, so that's another 4, I think. So that's 12 bill base cost. I assume you're spending at least a bill in like
Well,
installation job fees plus invention. So 13 bill, I would say, is pretty much cost.
the T1 hulls are getting cheaper though. They got cheaper with the expansion.
Right, but
That's a big
not
thing
that
we
much.
missed. But I thought they
They're
were
only
gonna
like,
be like 2-3 bill now for hulls.
didn't I just
Or
say 3 bill?
you said like 4 or 5, I think.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
So
But I mean that's another cool thing. They changed that. Kind of waiting to see how the market settles on that because I mean I don't know, the cat market seems weird all of the time.
I mean,
cat market is weird.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I believe that the dread holes were somewhere around 4 to 5, for just like a regular dread, and
It's
then
going to be a
what, like
long time
two,
before the
3 for
dread.
carries and facts.
Yeah, it's going to be a long time before the dread market becomes normalized based on the price because everybody's taking their old T1 dreads and throwing them into the cooker to upgrade, right? Be it faction dreads or T2 dreads now.
Yeah. So basically, so T1 dreads aren't like ammo like they used to be. I mean, they could be, I suppose, but I feel like
They
what
haven't been for a while though.
yeah, no, exactly. But they used to be. But there was an interesting I thought of this because Jam Bam Jam, great name by the way, says so they are bullets again. But if they're just getting turned into Navy dreads and Tech 2 dreads, then no, they're absolutely not bullets. The market will be more scarce because of that kind of usage and then lead to, a static price probably. I don't And I think you probably end up seeing more or less just like Navy dreads being the primary dreads that are used. And it's just people, invest a little bit more to do a dread bomb.
Well, say hello to the Navy Dread Bomb.
Well,
Or
I want to say
I
hello
mean,
to
we
a
already
Lancer
saw
dread
that to a
bomb.
degree in the large Turner fight, right?
Yeah.
Where one side was over or near like 50% faction dreads, and the other side wasn't, and the side with the faction dreads cleaned up real well. Because when you got a faction dread with, high grade amulets or nirvanas, you've got like a lot more HP than a T1 dread.
oh yeah,
And it's not like, 10%, it's like 100%.
yeah. The Tech 2 Revelation though,
The whatchamacallit?
the missile rev.
Yeah, what is it called? The Bane. That's it.
Yeah,
Uh yeah, I'm not a giant fan. Torpedoes, XL torpedoes especially, have not been good for.
yeah. But it's the
Well,
one with
actually, they're still not good, I should say.
it's the only dread with like the best spread of resist in its like resist area.
Yeah,
Whereas
but I like the
Phoenix
thing is
Dread,
when you have
no.
like the hubris with its explosive hole, it's like easy. Then you just plug it with an explosive hardener, right? Or the Pavovula or whatever the
The
Phoenix is called.
Valraven?
You just plug with an EM. The Valraven's actually got the best resist profile because it's got the standard Mimitar one where it's got like a slight kinetic hole.
Oh,
The kinetic
Yeah.
damage is
you were talking about the Karura.
Karura. Sorry, yeah.
These names
And
are amazing.
the
They're Icelandic,
hubris
obviously.
the hubris is really like interesting because it has a whole resist bonus. Like
But it's basically like a meme, right?
yeah, exactly. It's funny.
Well, it's called a hubris, so I mean, of course it's a meme, right? That's the idea.
I mean, it's actually a solid T2 Dread, though. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
one of the better ones.
Well, no, yeah, they all seem like super solid, and the only thing that I ever thought negative about the Tech 2 dreads was that I couldn't really think of a place where those dreads fit into the regular game. Like in my mind, everything that gets added should have a niche to fill, and like additions to the game should like be exclusively to fill some sort of niche that is unfilled. But that's just me. That's why I don't design games.
Yeah.
So what do you think like the purpose of these dreads will be? Like what do you think the use case would be for them most often?
Honestly, mostly, I think they're gonna be used when, like, for like the big note fights, like uh, when fleets are trying to escape, the enemy might sign on the grid one of these and
Yeah, so if
nuke the
somebody's
entire
trying to
fleet.
escape out via a gate, the obvious opportunity is just to sino in a couple T2 dreads, near the gate, lance the gate, and all of a sudden your opponent can't get out through the gate. So it can kind of take a route and then make it even worse, right? So
Well, you gotta lance the fleet, not the gate,
Right, yeah, no,
right?
but the fleet is on the gate. It's
Sure.
that's semantics. But I mean, but if you do that, if you drop a bunch of them and you just send it through, like you're just gonna nude out anybody that's around you, right? Because that's the whole point. Is that
so
the
yes, in
lances
theory
have a
you will
neutralizer.
nude out people near you, but you can mitigate that a variety of ways. Be it things like cap batteries, be it things like soldering in on different spots, cap boosters, cap injectors, etc. Like obviously you're not gonna be able to put like four of them down from the same position, but you can probably do two, maybe even three from the same like near spot. And yeah,
I
That
don't
is
know.
a very
and,
small
and
beam
the
radius,
thing is,
though.
it's well, it's important to remember there's no real giant incentive to actually like drop a whole bunch of them together because you generally want to be firing the disruptive lance, in separate kind of increments, right? So that you're keeping things debuffed for the maximum amount of time instead of just having it all happen over the same singular minute.
So you want to stagger them? Hmm, I don't know. I
Eh, pro-
I guess I'll just have to see it. I'll wait for the first snuffed out video of them dropping Lancer Dreads on something with like Black Ops subcaps. Fucking losers. Hate those
Yeah,
guys.
they're probably just gonna lance the gate when a jump freighter's coming in.
Now see, that I don't understand. I thought is that a thing that can happen? Like that's the biggest concern with the whole thing is that
Yeah, that's why jump freighters were literally quaking.
and so essentially it would be like a smart bomb except when it hits instead of just being damaged, you also can't take a gate for, 60 seconds or whatever.
Right,
Yeah,
which means you're fucking dead if you're a jump raider.
Yeah, and like Brendan says, you're just jumping your JF straight to Z kill. Um, so I mean, what are they gonna do to fix that?
They
How
haven't showed anything so far. I think they're gonna let the economy fucking tank first, and then they'll
I
try
mean,
and fix it
I
later.
mean, I'm not gonna give away my secrets, but there is a way around
do you think we could just ask nicely for people not to do that, and they won't?
No,
it. Funny.
Well, we
there
tried
are there are
anyway.
ways to mitigate it, but like they're all gonna be all over the place. So
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, and of course, we ran out of time, at least in my mind, but obviously we can keep going. It's fine. We didn't really talk about all the other stuff yet. Um, there's some new stuff with the corporation, like the corporation projects. Is that something you think we should touch on, or is that a meeting that could be an
I
email,
don't
you
think
think?
anybody's got enough experience with it yet to know.
I mean, I definitely don't have enough experience with it myself.
Well, I mean,
I,
from what I've just seen screenshots of people like making them and the funny things that they made afterwards. Like I think they put a 999 trillion isk damage job on Wally Marts and snuffed out, which I think is hilarious. But that's the only one I've seen. It just seems like it's
Yeah.
a fun way to encourage your corporation to do stuff. Like, hey, go kill Go kill this guy. These are our enemies, or go farm bees and delve or something like that.
Yeah,
Seems
I
fun.
think. Yeah, there's definitely going to be probably a project that my corporations. I don't own the corporation, but my corporation's probably going to do this. Is they're going to be like they're going to make a project, and I'm not going to get in too much detail where I'm at, but they're like going to be like, yeah, go kill these people because they're dicks.
Yeah, and so like on stream right now, it's just kind of showing well, it's showing the man now, but it was showing the different kinds of projects that you could put in, kind of the interface there. I like the vibe of the videos in the background. It's pretty cool. I hope this is good for Space Gator. Space Gator, hope you're enjoying yourself. But anyways, while this rolls, I mean, honestly, I think we did a good job covering a bunch of the news. Um, and I'm happy to hear some final thoughts and hit the road if it's all the same to you guys. What do you think? Great, resounding agreement, just like I like. Well, any final thoughts for me, or I'm just gonna abruptly end the stream?
Sounds good to me.
May
Fuck,
the
man.
TTT fight whole timer be glorious, if there is one.
All right, so I have some final thoughts for you. Um, the biggest final thought that I have is that I hope you enjoy the tie dye, because you're gonna cram 1,000 idiots into that system. That'll probably not be reinforced because your FC's had the collective IQ of a house rat. Um, and it's gonna be miserable for you for a few days. You're gonna live in high sec. You're gonna hate it there, and I hope that you know that you're killing a little bit of history when you kill the TTT. But I do appreciate you removing possibility for confusion with the quite popular EVE Online Talk Show Trash Talk Tuesday, which will return at its regular time next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or whatever time, Eve time that is. Unfortunately, it will only be an hour long from here on out, so we're going to have to
Oh,
cram things in, but I got money to make and I got a job to do, so gotta go to bed. Um, anyways, been a pleasure, being back on the stream. Thanks for joining us, fellows and ladies, and everyone else. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you next time.